Get a stiff drink and sit down. I need to talk to you about something. Hello, my name is Emma Baginski. This is my YouTube channel, Emma Baginski Art and Whimsy. Today I want to talk about an impending financial crisis. I know that's not very art and whimsy of me, but, you know, sometimes the muse strikes and the muse is scary. I can't help but feel like we've done this before. Humanity has been here before. Will influencer culture lead to another Great Depression? So the Great Depression, the thing that nobody wants to happen again because it was the worst financial crisis in modern history. It was a severe global economic downturn that affected many countries across the world for 10 years. The start date was 1929 and it ended in 1939. You might be like, Emma, that happened like 100 years ago. Why do we care about that? Buckle up. We're gonna take you on a journey. Some of you know history, and you might know where I'm going with this. So the 1920s is characterized by a lot of things. First, economic boom. Henry Ford, maker of Ford motor vehicles, or whatever it's called, established the assembly line process of mass producing goods. We got so many new inventions. We got cars, we got televisions, we got household appliances like refrigerators, electric blenders, even water skis apparently were invented in the 1920s. The era was marked for its desire for luxury, grandeur, and the high life. Epitomized by the Jazz Age and flapper culture. The 1920s gave birth to the Art Deco art style, which I am such a fan of. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. Oh god. 1920 marked the year women got the right to vote, so it gave birth to the flapper aesthetic, as the TikTok kids would say. Women wore short skirts to their around their knees, which was unheard of at the time, super scandalous. Bobbed hair, they listened to jazz music, and flaunted their disdain for prevailing codes of decent behavior. Yeah, fuck yeah. You wear those short skirts. Liberate those knees. The 1920s also had the advent of radio and television that gave way to modern celebrity culture. Advertisers then used those celebrities for commercials and endorsements for their products, which very effectively influenced consumer behavior.
Advertisers were constantly trying to persuade people to buy more by flooding them with advertisements in magazines, on billboards, in newspapers and mail-order catalogs.
I repeat, don't you think she's kind of neat? And I ask you very confidentially, ain't she sweet?
The 1920s also gave birth to Americans' consumer debt as we know it today.
The widespread use of credit and layaway buying plans meant that it was acceptable to go into debt to maintain what came to be seen as the American standard of living, and this was a huge change in attitude.
You probably live in current times unless you're an anthropologist from many years in the future, in which case, hello. I hope the future is nice and fun and we figure all this shit out. Right now, it's like an observer on the internet, chronically online. That's me. I've noticed that the 2020s and the 1920s have paralleled each other in a very interesting way. To me, the 2020s is very much like the 1920s on steroids. You know, everything's just
Wait. You have tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt, $1,000 minimum monthly payment there, $227 minimum monthly payment there, $123 minimum monthly payment here, losing thousands of dollars in interest, and we decide smart bulbs are more important?
Yeah, at that point I did not think about it. This is before I started watching your show. What we're usually fed when we look at social media and TikTok, and I'm guilty of that, is that, hey, the American life is live on debt. Just make your monthly payments and pay for your mortgage, pay for your car payments, and that's just the American way. And I got really sucked into that. I was like, okay, I'm making enough money. I can easily pay $200 a month here and there.
And you've seen what happens. Making money doesn't always
no, it does not
sustain.
Yeah, the biggest thing is I had a job for 4 years. I was making good money. Like, I had no reason to believe it would ever go away.
Instead of radio and television, we have TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We have little devices in our pockets that we can film ourselves. Anybody with, access to a phone and the internet can tippity-tap their little fingers, record themselves, and post it on the internet.
I spent $600 at Sephora. Let's see what I got. A lot of this stuff was me just like scrolling through TikTok and then clicking purchase on the Sephora website. It's a really bad habit. I should stop doing that.
To be honest, I don't know what happened, but...
Nah, I done witnessed a lot of struggles in my life and in my friends' life and on this social media platforms across the board. But Afterpay for a Raising Cane's box combo, we got to do better for ourselves, people. We got to do better. I don't even know why even Afterpay will let you do that.
Hi, my name is Paige, and I am an Afterpay addict.
Influencer culture has kind of overtaken celebrity cultures. The most infamous celebrities are also influencers, like, the Kardashians. They're kind of like a cultural powerhouse, which good for them, good for them. They made history, can't deny that.
Kim K's a crypto scammer? A new lawsuit says she is, along with Floyd Mayweather and Paul Pierce. They're accused of pumping and dumping the Ethereum Max coin, leaving investors in the dust.
But, their effect on society, up to personal opinion on that one. I'm going to take you down memory lane. And we're going to start in 1919 with a man called Charles Ponzi. Few people ever see their name entered in the English language, but Charles Ponzi did. A Ponzi scheme has become synonymous with wild speculation. Ponzi was a 42-year-old former vegetable dealer with just $150 to his name. Same, honestly. He promised to return $15 to anyone who lent him $10 for 90 days. His plan, he explained, was to buy foreign currency for lower prices and sell them at higher prices. After newspapers reported his scheme, dollars began to pour in. $1 million. $1 million a week this man got. An admirer described him as the greatest Italian of all time. I apologize to Italians. Columbus discovered America, but you discovered money. Great job, Charles. Oh my God, what a man. The scheme was too good to be true. Ponzi took $15 million in 8 months, and less than $200,000 was ever returned to its investors. Honestly, I'm surprised that $200,000 was returned. I guess maybe to keep up the front, to keep the money rolling in. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, what does that even... Oh, what's the conversion rate? How much money did this man make? I need to know. Calculate. Okay. Drum roll, please. This man made $235 million in today's money.
Oh my God!
By people just sending him money. Because newspapers reported on his scheme and everyone believed it.
Sam Bankman-Fried, CEO of one of the world's largest crypto exchanges, is here. He appeared on a podcast to explain it to the unwashed masses once and for all. What is a yield farm? But it turns out in the process, he accidentally describes a Ponzi scheme. Because today, they accused Sam of defrauding investors for $1.8 billion. Quote, Bankman-Fried was orchestrating a massive years-long fraud, diverting billions of dollars of customer funds for his own personal benefit. At At some point, Ms. Sassoon asked about regulation, and he did answer that. Question, you wanted your followers to think that consumer protection was important to you, right? Answer, sure. But this was really just for PR, wasn't it? Answer, no. She then pulls up a message Sam himself wrote and had him read it out to the jury, saying, yeah, just PR. Regulators.
So this is going to set a tone for the rest of the 2020s. Ponzi symbolized the get-rich-quick mentality that infected the public during the 1920s. A vivid example was the Florida land boom. Sun-worshipping northerners discovered Florida's warm winter climate and the sun-drenched beaches. To summarize, a bunch of people were like, yo, everyone go invest in Florida. It's like a paradise. You know, a bunch of people do it. Demand increases crazy. And then eventually the bubble bursts in 1929, where 2 hurricanes ripped through Florida, killing more than 400 people. And then the property valued at $1 billion in 1925 dropped to $143 million in 1928. Basically, it's hype culture. Hype culture is the problem. Too much hype. A wave of stock swindlers and business frauds took place during the 1920s.
Here's how I made $100,000 in under 10 minutes. The first thing I did...
What the hell are you doing?
I'm lying about making money.
Dan, if you want to make a finance TikTok, you're going to have to pump up your numbers.
But these are pretty big.
Pump them!
Here's how I made $8 trillion in under 6 seconds.
The most striking manifestation of the decade's speculative frenzy was the stock market boom of 1928 and 1929. By the beginning of the fall of 1929, stock prices were 4 times higher than the 5 years previous. Then, the day of reckoning, Thursday, October 29th, 1929. An unprecedented wave of sell orders shook the New York Stock Exchange. It's like, you know, the 2020 toilet paper like craziness, where like everyone thought that we were gonna run out of toilet paper because China ran out of toilet paper, even though like the manufacturing is like completely different. But everyone thought we were going to run out of toilet paper, so everyone went and just like grabbed as much toilet paper as possible. And then it left the shelves barren. Remember that? Yeah, the same thing happened, but with the money in the stock market in 1929. Basically what happened is like, because of the dip, it did recover. It didn't immediately just crash. It was because of that dip, everyone got really afraid and scared that everyone started withdrawing the money. And because everyone started withdrawing the money, there wasn't enough liquidity for everyone to get their money back. A lot of wealth just vanished. The people who put their money in the stock market lost it forever. The great stock market crash of 1929 brought a decade of economic prosperity to its knees, to a symbolic end. For the next 10 years, the United States was mired in deep economic depression. By 1933, unemployment had soared to 25%. A quarter of the population was unemployed, up from just 3.2% in 1929. Industrial production declined by 50% in 1929 before the crash. Investment in the U.S. economy totaled $16 billion. By 1933, the figure had fallen to $340 million, a decrease of 98%. Why it happened? Why did the seemingly boundless prosperity of the 1920s end so suddenly? And why, once economic downturn began, did the Great Depression last so long? Remember, it lasted 10 years. In 1929, the American economy appeared to be extraordinarily healthy. Employment was high, inflation was virtually non-existent, can't relate. The United States accounted for nearly half of the world's industrial output. Still, the seeds of the Depression were already present in the boom years of the 1920s. This is the important part, okay? Pay attention. For many groups of Americans, the prosperity of the 1920s was a cruel illusion. Even during the most prosperous years of the Roaring '20s, most families lived below what contemporaries defined as the poverty line. Okay, buckle up. In 1929, economists considered $2,500 per year was the necessary income to support a family. In that year, more than 60% of families earned less than $2,000 a year, which is considered like the basic income necessary for basic necessities. Over 40% earned less than $1,500 annually, so much under. I then put those numbers into like a calculator to see like what that like those numbers mean in like today's salaries. I was not ready. I wish I filmed my reaction when I was doing the research, because holy shit, okay? $2,500. That seems like a little bit of money, like just a little bit, you know, small amount. $2,500 in 1929 is $45,932.02. Do you know what the poverty line is nowadays for a family? ASPE, the Office of Assistant Secretary for Planning and Evaluation, .gov, this is a government website, the poverty line guidelines right now for a family of 3 is $25,820. In what world? In what world can a family of 3 survive on $25,000? That is so much less. If you do the 2,000, you know, the pitting amounts. Oh my God, people could barely get by with $2,000. That's $36,000. That's still above the poverty line right now in the United States. $15,000 in 1929 was worth $27,559.21 today. What the fuck? What the fuck? Are you serious? I would yell, but my baby is asleep in the other room, like literally right there. That's his room. So I can't yell. So minimum wage is still only $7.25. I live in New York, so New York is definitely higher. Right now the minimum wage is $14.20. Wow. That's higher than it was when I worked. I've been out of work for a year because I'm a stay-at-home mom. Yearly salary on minimum wage is about $15,000 annually. Dead. I think things might be bad. Sorry, $15 an hour for a whole year basically works out to $31,000, which is above the poverty line. For a family of 4, do you think that you can have a family of 4 on $31,000 right now? Full disclosure, I'm a 1-income family right now. My husband works. I stay home with our baby. And he makes like in the ballpark of like 50 grand a year. And like we're doing okay. But like we had the absolute layup of my husband bought this house in 2018 for less than 100 grand. That was God tier, like maximum luck that we happened to have a house before the crazy increase in housing costs. The math is not mathing. For many groups in America, the prosperity of the 1920s was a cruel illusion, and you could just replace the 1920s with the 2020s, and that statement is still the same.
But it was pointless for advertisers to appeal to those people who could scarcely afford to fill the hungry mouths of their families, let alone buy radios, telephones, or motor cars. The poor tenant farmers or sharecroppers of the Middle West and Deep South were caught up in a vicious circle of high rents, low prices for their crops, and a lack of machinery. Blacks continued to be at the bottom of the heap. The black had made little or no progress up the social scale since slavery had ended in 1865. In the South and Midwest, the sinister Ku Klux Klan was still putting fear into people's hearts. They spread hate against blacks, Jews, Catholics, and foreigners. The KKK were making sure no outsider would threaten their property or livelihoods.
Prosperity bypassed specific groups of Americans entirely. If you were a minority, an ethnic minority in the time, you didn't get much prosperity thrown your way.
And Oklahoma is a unique space in terms of the number of African-American towns that were established. Some suggest upwards of 50 African-American towns between 1924 and 1928. Reverend S.S. Jones was going around documenting this sort of self-determined, vibrant African-American communities. You see the African-American educators, doctors, lawyers, landowners, oil barons. And I think that's what's so remarkable about this footage. To think that individuals, how many years out of slavery, are now owning oil wells that are producing 2,000 barrels a day. Is that not the ultimate American dream? Is that not the ultimate American story?
There's a lot of complicated history involved in all of this, obviously. But farmers were not doing well at the time, and millions of farmers were defaulting on their debts, placing a tremendous amount of pressure on the banking system. And between 1920 and 1929, more than 5,000 of the country's 30,000 banks failed. Because of the banking crisis, we're starting, doof, 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 the dominoes are falling. Because of the banking crisis, thousands of small businesses failed because they could not secure loans, and then thousands more went bankrupt because they had lost their working capital in the stock market. A heavy burden of consumer debt also weakened the economy. Consumers had built up an unmanageable amount of consumer installments and mortgage debt, taking out loans to buy cars, appliances, and then homes in the suburbs. They didn't even got student loans like that at the time. Like, they're playing on easy mode. To repay the loans, consumers cut back sharply on their discretionary spending, and the drop in the spending led inevitably to a reduction in production and worker layoffs. Unemployed workers then spent less, and then the cycle repeats itself. A poor distribution of income compounded the country's economic problems. During 1920s, there was a pronounced shift in wealth and income towards the very rich. What? That never happens. Why would that happen? Because the rich tend to spend a high proportion of their income on luxuries such as large cars, entertainment, tourism, and save a disproportionately large share of their income. There was an insufficient demand to keep employment and investment at a high level. And ultimately, it was the Federal Reserve and the federal government that was the nail in the coffin that caused the decade-long depression. It played a critical role in weakening the economy, which we now know today, which is good. We've at least learned something. In an effort to curb market speculation, the Federal Reserve slowed the growth of the money supply, then allowed the money supply to fall dramatically after the stock market crashed, producing a retching liquidity crisis. Consumers found themselves unable to pay loans, while businesses did not have the capital to finance business operations. Instead of actively stimulating the economy by cutting interest rates and expanding the money supply, the way money authorities fight recessions today, the Federal Reserve allowed the country's money supply to decline 27% between 1929, and 1933. Finally, a nail in the coffin, a Republican tariff policy damaged the economy by depressing foreign trade. Anxious to protect American industries from foreign competitors, raising tariff rates to an unprecedented level. American tariffs stifled international trade, making it difficult for European nations to pay off debts. As foreign economies floundered, those countries imposed trade barriers of their own, choking the U.S. exports. By 1933, international trade had plunged 30%. All these factors left the economy ripe for disaster. Yet, the Depression did not strike instantly. It infected the country like a slow-growing cancer. I didn't write that. That's hard. Measured in human terms, the Great Depression was the worst economic catastrophe in American history. Baller. Oh my god, if you want to read more about everything that follows, because what follows isn't pretty. What follows the Great Depression is like World War II. And basically the Great Depression is what primed all of the political insanity that was like the totalitarianism, the fascism, like all of that stuff. That was because of the Great Depression. It is a proven fact that in times of crisis, people are literally dumber. Okay? Like, when you're in survival mode, the parts of your brain that are like, good at critical thinking, just shut off, because you don't have energy for that. You're just trying to get by and survive. And obviously they didn't have the historical context. We know how it ends, but they don't know how it ends. It ends in an atomic bomb being dropped on people. Millions and millions of people getting fucking killed. My point in like pointing all of this out is like, we should learn from the past, is what I'm really trying to say. In the wise words of President Hoover, which was one of the presidents that was in charge at the time of the Great Depression, who was a proponent for rugged individualism. But he also said at one point, the trouble with capitalism is capitalists. They're too damn greedy. Wise words, wisdom from 100 years ago. And I don't want to leave this video on a depressing note. There's never been another economic depression since the Great Depression, but there has been 30-something recessions in American history since then. So it is a normal part of the just like economic cycle. So I don't want to fearmonger. That's not my intention. I'm not mainstream media. I'm just a lady. I'm just a girl who noticed a couple things and thought it was interesting. Hear me out. If we had like a recession, it might be good for our current society as a whole. It might be the correction we need. One, the reduction of overconsumption. We obviously, right now with social media and everything, we have a problem with overconsumption. We have so much of stuff we don't need, like the normalization of hoarding different things like makeup, perfume, clothing, magic cards. It's not just the ladies. Tell me how much your Warhammer figurine collection costs, okay? Write it in the comments, okay? Nobody's above this. We're all part of the problem. I have to make sweeping generalized statements because I'm talking about macro things, about like just trends. There's a good portion of the population who participate in overconsumption, and I have been one of them. Hello, I'm Emma. I have a problem. I used to have a problem, but then I stopped working, and now I don't have like a consistent income, and so I don't buy things anymore. I have changed. You can change, okay? 2, promotion of sustainable living. We tend to be very disposable and throw away things that are perfectly fine and do not need to be thrown away. Shifting to more sustainable options that will last you a really long time, that will, that aren't disposable be made easily without taking up valuable resources that can never be made again? You know, that might be good, because then that leads to number 3, environmental benefits. You know, if we stop making so much goddamn plastic for single-use disposable shit, that might be good for us. Maybe if we just all used reusable items, even reusable plastic. Like, plastic is fine in the event of a thing that's gonna last for a really long time. Right now, let's look up the garment industry, the textiles. Global fashion industry waste. Up to 100 billion garments are produced by the fashion industry every year. Every year. 100 billion garments every year. I'm sorry, how many people exist each year? As much as 92 billion tons of clothes end up in landfills. Only 20% of textiles are collected for reuse or recycling globally, and almost 60% of all clothing material is actually plastic. Because we love them cheap synthetics. You know, that's why I'm saying a recession might be a good thing. Maybe we should stop fucking making clothes. Maybe we have enough clothing on the planet where we don't actually have to make more for, like, I don't know, at least a decade. As long as the Great Depression lasted. You know? Oh my god. That's so much. You know, when possible, try to get clothes secondhand. You know, when I think about it, maybe we've flown too close to the sun. Maybe we should all just cut back. That's what I'm feeling. That's what I'm feeling right now. A recession/depression might actually end the loneliness epidemic, because you fuckers might actually have to go outside and make community ties and, like, work together with your fellow humans and man in your local communities, because you can't survive without each other. Hyper-individualism breeds hyper-consumerism. Like, we don't need one of everything, okay? A lot of things in life you just use occasionally. We don't all need to own, like, certain things. You know, we can just borrow and, like, have, like, community resources, and that's better for everybody. You can chip in together with people in your community to buy items in bulk. I know a lot of people who are doing that with, like, meat and beef right now. They'll, like, chip in with a couple people, a couple families, and they'll buy, like, a whole half of a cow, and, like, from a butcher. Bartering with, like, your time with with people in your community. Like, I'm a stay-at-home mom, I could watch other kids, and, like, in exchange for, you know, like, if I needed, like, I don't know, plumbing work done on my house, if I had a neighbor who was a plumber, I could be like, yo, I'll watch your kid if you help me because I have a leak. You know, just an example. Getting to know your local community, making connections, figuring out, like, people's skills and, like, what they're good at, and then being able to, like, you know, trade and offer your skills to each other. It's like, work together. You can do this. We've been doing this for thousands of years. It is very recent human history where we don't have to rely on one another. There's also, like, buy nothing groups on, like, you know, Facebook Marketplace or Facebook groups where, like, people just offer things that they don't want really anymore and be like, yo, I'm trying to get rid of this thing. Do you want it? Community building activities. You don't need, like, for entertainment, like, there's so many cheap ways to keep people entertained, like bringing food out and doing, like, picnics, bringing kids out to just nature and just letting them wander. I have an 18-month-old. If you give him a spork and, like, a lid to laundry detergent and just, like, let him go play in dirt, he's having the time of his life. Kids do not have to cost that much fucking money. I give him cleaned out milk jugs all the time. He just opens and shuts it. He just likes to screw the cap on, and then sometimes he'll shove pencils in it and dump it out. Like, you know, kids have fun with anything. It doesn't have to cost money. It could also help foster intergenerational connections. You know, there are the older and wiser among us who have been through lots of financial crises, you know, they've weathered the storms. They have like old-timey tips and tricks. I've watched this one YouTube channel. She's since passed away, but it's called Great Depression Cooking with Clara, and she's somebody who lived through the Great Depression and you know, has all of these recipes and stuff.
To help you through the hard times, I have some tips. Here are the Depression Cooking 5 tips. 1. Family. 2. Have a garden. 3. Use and reuse. Make your own meals. Eat healthy. We were all healthy during the Depression.
And I love that. I love that that is like preserved on the internet. So wonderful. Do go check it out, you know? In the website I was reading, like during the Great Depression, at the very end it said, despite the hardships it inflicted, the Great Depression drew some families closer together. As one observer noted, many families have lost its automobile but found its soul. Families had devised strategies for getting through hard times because their survival depended on it. They pooled their incomes, moved in with relatives to cut on expenses, bought day-old bread, and did without. Many families drew comfort from their religion, sustained by the hope that things would turn out well in the end. Others placed their faith in themselves.
What do you want your legacy to be?
My what?
Your legacy.
What do I want it to be?
What do you want to be remembered for?
For nothing. I didn't do anything special.
Okay, so when I say action, tell me who you are and what you're going to make. Okay? Action.
I'm Clara Canachari, a grandmother, and I'm going to make the poor man's meal, which we ate during the Depression. What else do you want to hear?
Good luck out there. If I could just implore you to do anything, is learn better financial habits. A lot of our horrible financial habits come from impulsive, emotional spending. If you can get a handle on your emotional spending and learn how to delegate and control your finances, you will be in a much better state. That's, if I can influence you to do anything, do that. If you need a great YouTube channel to watch to get you to stop spending, I highly recommend a YouTube channel, Social Simone. Love her videos.
There are definitely unjustifiable purchases, because I done seen some stuff with some cars that it didn't make sense. No matter what y'all try to, don't try to gaslight me. Don't gas me. Some stuff that people do don't make sense. They probably won't admit it until they're in a bad position though. And then it's, oh, I shouldn't have did that. We've all done things that we shouldn't have done. And I get that. But the growth comes when you're honest with yourself. You can grow. You can learn. You can say, hey, I'm not going to make that mistake again. But all this lying to yourselves, Delulu land.
She's part of the reason I got down this rabbit hole in the first place. Thank you for watching. I hope that this video was entertaining to you. If you made it to the end, you're amazing. Love you. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.